Hi, this is Rachel from Ray K Books, and today I'm going to be interviewing Lisa Verge Higgins. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So we're going to be talking about your newest book, Random Acts of Kindness. Can you please give everybody a synopsis?
Sure. Random acts of kindness. Let me see. Random acts of kindness um, is a book about this woman by the name of Jenna Hogan. And Jenna loses her job, and her husband asks for a divorce on the same day. And so Jenna is in a bit of a tizzy, and she decides what she's going to do is she's going to leave home, just leave her husband, leave her daughter is off at camp. She has a young daughter off at camp, and she's going to go drive 600 miles to an old friend of hers who is in a worse position than herself. This woman has breast cancer. And so Jenna goes and shows up on her friend's door and says, "Here I am, Claire. I've got 3 weeks. I lost my husband. I've lost my job. Let's do something crazy." And so Jenna and Claire take a cross-country trip back to their hometown, and they meet friends along the way. And when they get there, they find that Jenna's random act of kindness has come around and affected her and her friends in ways that they couldn't possibly expect. And that's what the book's about.
That's so sweet. I love it. I love it. So we have one Twitter question right now, and I would like to ask that. And she asks, "Hi Lisa, why did you decide to write a series after so many standalones?"
Okay, Random Act of Kindness is actually my fourth book of what's called women's fiction. And when I decided to write this, I had had an idea in my mind for a long time to do a big story about a bunch of girlfriends who'd known each other in high school, 12 of them actually. They all came from the same small hometown in the Adirondacks, and of course, after high school, like happens to all of us, we all kind of scatter all across the world. And I really wanted to sort of explore what happens to a group of friends, 10 years after high school. And, how have their relationships changed, where have they gone, how their lives have gone, and try to bring them back together to explore that element of friendship. So obviously I couldn't do 12 people in one book. So I pitched it to my editor at Hachette to do a series of books, and each book would have probably 3 of the women. And the first one was this book, and it's actually about the people who have been cast out the farthest. Jenna lives in Washington and Seattle. Claire lives in Oregon, and the third woman who goes on this trip lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. So these are the West Coasters, and they take a road trip back to their hometown of Pine Lake. And so their friendship develops. But then in the next book, we'll get 3 more people, and what happens with them. And there'll be, cameos in this book. In the second book of the people who are here, so you'll continue to see how their lives develop after what happens in the story. And a lot of people are doing series now, especially in romance. A lot of folks are doing these very long series or these small town series, and I thought that was a really nice way to build a world that people want to come back to. So that was really why I decided to do a series. Each book in this series is going to be standalone, but you can read them as a group and see the development of all the lives. And there's a mystery that goes through it that'll eventually be solved. But it's like a sideline. It's something that won't come to fruition until the 4th book.
So that's really interesting. So you said 3 characters per book. So does that mean that there's 3 different point of views?
Yes. In fact, all my women's fiction does that. I really like doing a braided we call it a braided point of view because it's one and then another and then another and then back to the first because I feel like uh, how sometimes when you're reading a book and you don't really connect with the heroine. I didn't want that to happen. So this way, there are three heroines, and sometimes people will connect with say, Jenna, who's sort of, and she's an introvert and a little awkward in social situations. She's sort of a little spacey. She's the Luna Lovegood of the group. And then there's Claire, who, once shaved her head and became a Buddhist nun in Thailand, so she's sort of the trippy bohemian. And then the third woman, Nicole, is a life coach, and she's done everything regimented, and she's very smart, and she takes care of things, and she's detailed. So, everybody relates to a different kind of person, and with the three different point of views, you can pick who you most connect with. So, yeah, this book, too, has three points of views.
So, you say that they're all in basically the same areas, the women for the different books. I think it'd be kind of fun to explore like what they all do for a living. So you said there's 12 people. So
Yeah.
how fun was it to kind of like create 12 characters in different professions and?
Oh, it's great. One of the characters who's a secondary character in Random Acts of Kindness is a woman by the name of Maya Wheeler. And she's an archaeologist who specializes in ancient American cultures, so like old cultures beyond the Incas and the Aztecs, even older than that. And so she's always at digs, and it was really fun. I mean, she's got one chapter in the book when the friends come and visit her. She happens to be in South Dakota on a dig for the summer, and it was just so much fun to be able to research that. And another one is Jenna she's in the financial markets, but she specializes with Chinese semiconductor companies, so she actually speaks Chinese, which is really interesting. So I got to learn a few Chinese words. And then, Nicole she's got her own business. She's a life coach, so it was really fun to sort of read up on what a life coach is, which is essentially somebody who tries to help you put your life, organize your life, and set goals, and break those goals down into discrete goals. So it's just she's very organized, and she's always helping people with her own life, with their lives, and when in fact her life is falling apart. So it was a nice contrast to do that. So yeah, and then the other characters are developing. Not everybody has had it easy. One woman works at a casino because she's had a really tough life, and there's another woman who's in the second book that I just finished. Actually, it's coming out next March. Who is a long-haul trucker. She drives big rigs, 18-wheelers.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're very different people, and that's actually what makes it fun, is when you get very different people in a room, the sparks fly, So, and it's interesting how their friendships develop over the course of the books. They haven't seen each other in a while.
Right. So you said that you make a really good point that you do a lot of research through these books. So if you do research on just their jobs, what else do you do research on? I mean, there must be a lot of things. How much research did you have to put into this book?
It takes more research than you would think, even for small things like the divorce laws in Washington State. I've got a woman who's about to go through a divorce, so I had to figure out what the divorce laws were in Washington State in order for certain elements of the plot to work. And Claire has breast cancer, so I had to do some research on, how bad did I want it to be, sort of, and what stage and what kind. There's many different kinds of breast cancer. So that research. And then these three women actually take a road trip cross country. So I got to look at a map and say, okay, where would they stop? So Cheyenne. Oh, yay, Cheyenne. So I did some research in Cheyenne, and they stopped in Rapid City and Sioux City and Chicago. They went to a Cubs game. So the road trip alone was actually a lot of fun to be able to research every city and figure out what they would do and how it related to the story and all that. So, even though it's a contemporary novel, there's still a lot of stuff you have to do, and I think that's what makes things authentic.
And so, what genre do you want to write in next that's different, that you've never done before? And what's the genre that you will never write in?
I'll never write horror. Never write horror. I can't, I don't want to go there. I will probably write next a straight historical novel. There's a story that I've been wanting to write for a very long time, and it's about a woman by the name of Lola Montez. She was a courtesan during the 19th century in Europe, and she slept with a lot of very famous people, Franz Liszt and Alexandre Dumas, and she danced for Tsar Nicholas, and she was Spanish. Well, she said she was a Spanish, descended from Spanish royalty, and she was a dancer. And she made her way through Europe by dancing on the stages of Europe. And eventually she became the mistress of the King of Bavaria. And in 1848 he was deposed because of her. She was driven out of Munich, and he had to give up his crown because there was such a scandal with what she was doing while she was his mistress. So Lola then came to America, and she danced across America. She ended up in the gold rush, and it turns out that this woman wasn't Spanish, and she wasn't a dancer. She was this Irish army brat who just made up this whole persona and created herself and had this incredible life. So I want to write about her.
That's crazy!
Yeah, it's crazy. If you look her up, you'll see she's just such a character, and she was the Madonna of the mid-19th century, and I really want to write her story. So that's, when I work through these women's fiction, that's like the next thing down the road. And I've written historical novels before. I wrote a dozen historical and contemporary romances back in the 90s before I had my kids, and when I took a break after I had my 3 kids. And so I'm very familiar with the process, the research that has to be done and all that. So I'm looking forward to it, but that would be the next thing, yes.
Awesome. And now we're going to play a game called Would You Rather. And what Would You Rather is, if you are not certain, is I would ask Lisa a question like, would you rather eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life? And then she'd have to say either apples or oranges. But this is literature edition. So the first one is, would you rather fight next to Hermione from Harry Potter or Katniss from the Hunger Games?
Oh, Katniss. Absolutely. She kicks ass. Excuse my language, but yeah. No. I would much rather fight next to Katniss.
And then the second one is, would you rather read a book that is written poorly but has an excellent story, or read one with weak content but is written well?
Oh, excellent story. Definitely. Excellent story. Yes, a book that doesn't have a good story isn't, a novel that doesn't have a good story isn't worth reading, no matter how flowery the verse or how prettily the words are and how perfect the sentence are. That doesn't matter. It's the story that matters.
Who would you rather have as a child? Harry Potter or Hermione Granger?
Well, I have 3 daughters, so I wouldn't know what the heck to do with a boy. So I'm going to say Hermione.
Would you rather write novels where all the characters are women or all men for the rest of your writing career?
Women. That's what I write. Yes, definitely women.
Would you rather only write your books in trilogies or standalones for the rest of your writing career?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really hard one. I think I'd have to go for standalones. I mean, I love trilogies, but some stories aren't oriented to trilogies, so I think I'd go for standalones. That's a tough one.
Would you rather write a book without using conjunctions or have every sentence of your book begin with one?
I think I'd rather write a book without conjunctions.
All right. And the next one is, would you rather write a plot twist you hated or write a character you hated?
That's a hard one too. I think I'd rather write a plot twist I hated because you have to love your characters even if they're unlovable. You have to love them.
Right. And
Yeah.
would you rather a super successful movie be made from one of your books or a long-lasting television series?
Wow. Hmm. Either one would be good. Um, you know, there's so much really interesting stuff going on in television right now, with Game of Thrones and Boardwalk Empire, and my husband and I are watching The Wire now. We've never watched The Wire, so we're working through that, and that's amazing. We just watched the last episode of 24, the last season of 24. You know, I think I'd go for TV. I might answer that question differently 10 years ago, but now I think that all of the innovative stuff in filmmaking is happening on TV now, so I'd go for TV.
Awesome, awesome. Good answer. And then the last one is, would you rather critics rip your book apart publicly or never talk about it at all?
Oh, rip it apart. Absolutely, rip it apart. Yes.
And that concludes our game. Yay! Congratulations. You win.
I win.
You win a gold star. So off of number 10, which is the critics question, do you read bad reviews of your book?
Yes, I do. I actually read all my reviews because there are always going to be some. Not everybody's going to love my books. I don't love everybody else's books. It's people have their own taste, and I respect that. But I find often in reviews that readers will give very honest opinions, and if I see the same opinion showing up multiple times, then I see that as a way for me to learn what I've not done well and then avoid doing that in the future. So yes, I absolutely read reviews. I read bad reviews. I read good reviews. And I actually learn more from the bad reviews than the good reviews. I love the good reviews. So yeah, and I think that's what all authors should do. They really should respect the opinions of the readers and take their comments to heart. And that's really one of the only ways you can become a better writer.
And now we have a Twitter question, and this is from Jennifer. And Jennifer asks, how much time do you spend on social media interacting with readers?
I actually, daily, I do it. I probably spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half a day, mostly on Facebook. I really like Facebook. I have a lot of fun on Facebook. But I started up on Twitter about 6 months ago, so I'm beginning to appreciate the interactions on Twitter, but I still am a Facebook girl, I'm afraid. But yes, I do. I spend quite a bit of it. In fact, this past month, a reading group at Goodreads chose Random Act of Kindness as one of their books to read, and so I went on several times a day to respond to their questions. It was they did 9 chapters for 3 weeks, and so it was spread out, and it was a lot of fun. And that, of course, takes up time too. And I will periodically do things like that. I'll Skype for readers, reading groups, book clubs and things like that. So I would say probably, I think an hour and a half a day is a reasonable estimate. Yes.
And if you could have been the original author of any book, what would it have been and why?
Oh boy, I gotta pick a favorite child.
Yes, you do.
Gosh, there are so many. I mean, I don't know whether to do a classic or to do something more contemporary. I am a huge admirer of J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter books. I think they are just absolute genius. I can't believe she's never written anything before them. Um, but there are several books that I really like. Okay, Wuthering Heights, right? Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte.
Mhm.
Emily, Charlotte, can I remember which one? It was Emily, I think. And the thing about that book is it's a book about great passion written by a 25-year-old spinster in Massachusetts. And yeah. And I find that incredible, the amount of imagination that she had to have to write this book from her, little house in England somewhere. So probably I'd be torn between and To Kill a Mockingbird. See, I can't make a decision.
There's so many.
There's so many. Contemporary, I would say Harry Potter, and historical, I would say Wuthering Heights. There, I've made a commitment.
There. Okay, good. Okay, so the next questions are going to be team questions. Are you team Edward or Jacob from Twilight?
Jacob. I like
I'm
them hot.
I'm Jacob too, so
Yeah, that was never really a question. Yeah. I was pretty disappointed when she went Edward, even though it was inevitable.
you knew from book one who she was going to pick, but
Exactly. And
yeah.
and and that he likes her daughter, that he bonds with her daughter is a little creepy to me, but okay.
Hey, it works. I mean, like, technically all characters win at the end. So,
Yes. Yes. I'm glad she gave him a happy ending.
yeah, yeah. And then the second one, are you team Gale or PETA?
Um, I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't say what I think about Gail, but I'm Team PETA. Are you Gail or PETA?
I'm Gale.
You know what? I may have been Gail if the book ended differently. Because it ended that way, that turned me to Peter.
Yeah, not a lot of people liked what Gale did in the end. The
Yeah,
I don't know if that is, but yeah, yes. But I still love him.
yeah. Well, the fact that he's played by, Liam Hemsworth doesn't hurt.
No, I have a huge crush on his brother Thor. What's his name? Chris.
Yes.
Oh my God.
If you go to my Facebook page, you'll frequently see pictures of him.
So hot. Like
Yeah.
I only saw one of the movies that actually the Twilight Girl was in. I think it was like a Snow White movie with
Oh,
Kristen.
yes. Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah, I only saw that because I wanted to see Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, he was good in it. Do you
So
know
and
he's in the first Star Trek movie? Well, the one with Chris Pine. Because he plays Chris Pine's father.
yeah, I know. When I was like, that's him?
I thought that was great. I forgot about that. And then I saw the Star Trek movie for the second time and recognized Chris Hemsworth as his father. That was great.
I know. He doesn't have a beard, so it's weird because he always has a beard now. It was hard for me to. Anyway, um, so my next question is, if you could be best friends with one of your characters in random acts of kindness, who would it be?
Oh, wow. I have to pick another favorite baby.
Yes, you do.
Oh, gosh. Oh, well, is a real awkward introvert, so part of me relates to her. Most writers are introverts, so part of me relates to that part of her, and I want to hold her and tell her it'll be okay.
Oh,
Um, but Claire is a free spirit, and she um, is very wise in many ways, and I admire her equilibrium, her serenity. Nicole is pretty hardcore. Nicole's a little harder to get close to, but she will be at your back. You know, she will take care of you if something's wrong. Gosh, that's hard. You know what? I think I'd probably go with Jenna just because she needs me more.
And then, if I already asked that question, never mind. If you were stranded on a desert island, which character from Random Acts of Kindness would you want by your side?
Lars, who is Nicole's husband. Well,
Tell me
let's be
about
real.
that.
Right? He's a really good man, and he's he's Scandinavian, so he's cute. Yeah, I am Lars.
Do you have any tips on how to get through the dreaded writer's block?
Oh gosh, you know, I've been very lucky. I haven't experienced true writer's block. I have had times when I've really had to push the words through, but in the process of pushing them through, they start to flow. Real writer's block is when there are just no ideas and when there's nothing, when you sit down and there's nothing, and I haven't felt that. However, I do know a lot of people who have gone through it, and I think the best thing you can do is to be gentle with yourself. Allow yourself a period of time where you do what's called refilling the well. Just sort of get out into the world and do things that make you happy and read a lot and get engaged in story, whether it's in the movies or on TV or in a book. And usually what happens is you can push yourself too hard, and I think your creativity, your brain, your muse, whatever anybody calls it, needs that time to recover. And if you allow yourself that time, don't write at all during that time, and then go back to it, I think that helps a lot, or at least it has with the people I know who've experienced real writer's block. That really helps in getting things moving again. But the other part of writer's block, where you're just stuck on something, my experience has been you don't know enough. So you need to go do some research, or you need to just sort of brainstorm and think about where things are going, and you need to do something other than actually write the story to kind of get over that hump.
And then the last question before we talk about the giveaway is, do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
Yes. I've actually been in this business for 25 years. My first book came out 25 years ago. I was very young when it happened. And it all happened very easily, which is, it doesn't happen that way. It never happens that way. And so I was very lucky. But after I took a hiatus with my children and then came back to writing, it wasn't so easy. And so my advice is to stay true to whatever you want to write. Write what you love to write what you want to say, and just keep writing. Just keep doing it. Finish a book and then go on to the next one and then go on to the next one. And don't let all the stuff that comes with publishing get you down, because the business side of this is a really tough business. It's hard to break in. It's hard to stay in. Even indie publishing, which is big these days, that's even hard to get traction with. So I think for new writers, just trust your instincts and don't let the business get you down. Remember that it's all about the story.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to be talking about the giveaway. Lisa is so kindly giving her book away, Random Acts of Kindness, and this is going to be international. And it looks just like that. It's a beautiful cover. Yeah. And so in order to win Random Acts of Kindness, this live chat is going to become a YouTube video. And when it becomes a YouTube video, I'd like you to comment on that video. It can be any comment, doesn't really matter what. And then this is optional, but extra points is to follow Lisa on Twitter. And I will put her Twitter username in the description So you don't need to Google it. I'm very kind that way. And if you do follow Lisa, then put your Twitter username in the comments so I can verify the entry. And this ends August 6th. And did I say it was international? Oh, well, it is. It is. I don't know if I said that or not. And that's it. So thank you so much, Lisa. I had a great time talking to you
I
with
had
you.
a great time too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.